I'll call to order the work session of the Wilsonville City Council for February 19th, 2026 at 5 p.m. I will start by asking council members for review of the agenda and items on consent. Are there any comments or concerns? Okay. Are there any councilor concerns before we begin our pre-council work session? Okay. Turning now to our work session. First up is Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission, an annual update.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Erica Valentine. I'm the city's Arts and Culture Program Coordinator here this evening to give an annual update on the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission. So just a brief presentation summary. I will go over the ACHC, talk about their past accomplishments, their upcoming projects, and then you have two items on your consent agenda tonight that relate to the ACHC. And we'll go over more in this presentation, but those are resolution number 3234, the allocation of community cultural events and programs grant funds for this fiscal year, and resolution number 3235, the ACHC 5-year action plan and annual 1-year implementation plan. That plan gets brought to the commission annually for their review to update and then their recommendation to forward on to you, but essentially just goes over what they've been working on and then what they hope to do moving forward. So the ACHC advises on recommendations outlined in the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Strategy. That's a photo of the strategy there. It's about a 100-page master plan that goes over goals, priorities, and steps for moving arts and culture forward in the city. So that strategy came from a 1920 council goal, and the commission's mission is to enhance the Wilsonville community by supporting, advocating, and advising on matters relating to advancing arts, culture, and heritage. So they began meeting in 2022. There's 9 voting members, and then we have multiple ex officio members that are city staffs from different departments, as well as a council liaison, which is Councilor Skoll. So their 2024-25 accomplishments, they oversee the Community Cultural Events and Programs Grant. This is a $25,000 annual allotment. You do need to be a nonprofit to be eligible to apply for that grant. It's essentially for organizations doing events and programs that have to do with arts, culture, or heritage. So the 3 organizations there were recipients last year. Charbonneau Arts Association, Wilsonville Rotary Foundation, and Wilsonville Stage. The Heritage Tree Program, they received a presentation from the planning staff about the program. It is housed under the planning department, but the ACHC, in their bylaws, they are part of the review body for when a nomination comes through. So they passed a resolution updating the Heritage Tree Program nomination process, and then approved a new heritage tree for the Holiday Leland Cypress, which is at the intersection of Wilsonville Road and Boones Ferry. The Hearts Project got implemented, so those are the 10 fiberglass heart sculptures. Those have been installed since May of 2025, and the project was funded by the Metro Community Enhancement Grant Program. The Hearts auction is going on now, so bidding closes March 6th. The ACHC decided which hearts to include in the auction and which ones to keep. So the ones pictured here are the ones included in the auction, and that's all just through an online auction portal. Any funds that are generated from any of the sales will go to fund future public art projects. So that's going on now. So that's exciting, and we're trying to get the word out about that. They also hosted a multicultural dance celebration that took place at McMenamin's. That was last spring. It featured 3 different dance groups. They do the Pride Month mural annually. So they award an artist, and that's a collaboration with the DEI committee. So that's a photo of last year's mural, and the artist was Darren Todd. The City Hall Gallery, that is just in the hallway right outside Council Chambers. So that's a collaboration with Clackamas County Arts Alliance, and the exhibits rotate about every 3 months. You have to either live in Clackamas County or work in the county to apply. Clackamas County Arts Alliance are essentially running galleries and I think at least 40 buildings in the county, mostly government, but some hospitals and other buildings. So that is great to feature artists there. Current accomplishments and future projects. They awarded the Wilsonville Public Library Children's Section Mural Project and approved a design. So this really came about from the library staff and the Library Foundation. The ACHC was able to kind of at the end kind of give final approval for the artist and the design. But do want to mention the Library Foundation is funding this project entirely, so we're really grateful to them. So Julia Hunkler was the awarded artist. That is her there in front of some of her other projects. This is her working, so she's probably currently painting right now. So she's on week 2, doing a lot of 8 to 10 hour days. So she probably has a couple weeks left, but this is just half. So she has the other 2 walls on the opposite side of the entrance to that children's section. The design concept is like a dog and cat going on a journey through all these different lands. So she hasn't added the dog and cat yet, but it will be complete. But it's been really fun just watching her, and she gets slowed down a lot because we are not closing the library at all beyond their regular hours. So there's a lot of fun conversations happening and asking her what she's doing. They also awarded the current Pride mural artist, so for 2026, which is Paula de la Cruz. Her design has not been approved yet, so that will take place at an upcoming ACHC meeting with collaboration from the DEI committee. For the future, they're also looking to start a utility box public art project. That image is just some examples of other cities' utility box art. So it's essentially the traffic signal boxes that are at intersections where there's traffic lights. So Wilsonville has about 24 of those boxes currently, so a pilot would feature 6 or 7, and that is pending a grant award from the Metro Community Enhancement Grant, which funded the Hearts Project. Again, with the Community Cultural Events and Programs Grant, that's something that they do annually. This year there were, we had 6 applicants, but 1 had dropped out, so the 5 listed are the 5 that the ACHC is recommending funding. So Charbonneau Arts Association, it's to really increase their attendance and sponsorship and kind of get a handle on their online marketing and marketing efforts. The Korean War Veterans Association, Oregon Trail Chapter 72, they're looking at adding a monument, which is more like a plaque. So that has kind of been worked through with the Parks Department. The Rotary Club, again, for their summer concert series. Wilsonville Choral Art Society, they're looking to purchase additional equipment that will allow them to do performances outside and be more flexible. And then Wilsonville Stage to do more live theater in Wilsonville. And then a couple additional things. They're, of course, wanting to continue to plan performing arts events, collaborate with other city boards, the library and community groups. And they're also looking to add an additional temporary mural similar to the Pride mural that's only up for a month, and collaborate with the high school art program for Latina Heritage Month, so to give the students some public art experience there. And then these are just some highlights from that work plan. A lot of these are ongoing that they will do annually. So determine locations of future public art projects, a public art assessment of the current collection. So that would really consist of just looking what the city has now, what what needs any maintenance or cleaning, what doesn't have a plaque, locations, things that could use lighting, things like that. Exploring a feasibility of a mural policy or formal mural program. There's some interest in what more public-private partnership might look like as far as local businesses that may have better wall space and be interested in murals. Increasing awareness of all arts, culture, heritage programs, so not just what the city's putting out, but supporting the smaller organizations and those nonprofits. Collaborating with other boards, the library, school district, and arts organizations, and then continuing to develop culturally relevant programming opportunities and events that center diversity and inclusivity. So that's kind of their work in a nutshell, but happy to take any questions or feedback.
Councilor Shevlin.
Just a comment. Thank you very much. I'm really almost overwhelmed with the amount of work that you've done and all the great projects that have been underway or completed and are underway now. It's just work like this and projects like this that make Wilsonville such a beautiful place and such a wonderful place to live. So I just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Council President Barry.
Thank you for your report. I'm just really, really impressed with how robust the program's becoming. I think that's really exciting. I really like the idea where we're taking the big statues, the hearts that have been distributed around the city, and then being able to do the online auction, and then getting more money so that we can implement that back into new programs. I think that's really smart. But thank you again for all your work.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, I am extremely impressed. The hearts were a knockout punch. I thought it was a beautiful, I'm doing boxing analogies because my son's into boxing, so. But exceptional presentation throughout the community, talked about by other cities, highlighted when I was interviewed in Portland, you know. It definitely sent a great message for our city. Another thing is that there was some concerns that those hearts might be vandalized. I don't think any of them were touched, knock on wood, they were so beautiful and impressive. So you guys, in the cultural dance program, just wonderful. You know, everybody enjoyed it. It was a crowd. My family enjoyed it. So those are just highlights of so many things that you've done over the past year. And so kudos to you, because I know it's exhausting for you as the staff coordinator, but kudos to the commission as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Councilor Scull, forgive me.
I also want to thank you. It was my first meeting with the Arts and Cultural Committee. They're a great group, totally engaged. It was kind of a really interesting meeting because I'm not an artsy type person, so I got an education out of that. Rather than seeing black and white, there's colors and a lot of different things going on there. And they were really good at critiquing the potential artwork that's coming in, but they also were really good about flipping the switch and working their way through the grant program. They asked some pretty open and honest questions. They challenged, and I feel they made some great decisions to spread that grant money across the board as much as they could. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, thank you very much. Next, we're going to turn to Town Center update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Amanda Guile-Hinman, City Attorney, and with me tonight, I'll have Ms. Troad introduce herself.
Good evening. I'm Gina Troja. I'm the Assistant City Manager and Interim Community Development Director.
So tonight, for Council's work session, there's a town center update generally, but we've divided it, as you saw with the staff reports, into two topics. The first topic to be discussed tonight is looking at potential town center zone code provisions and a option for council to look at some modifications. So the agenda for this part of the presentation is I'm going to first start with an overview of the questions that we have proposed for council to consider. These are the same 4 questions that are also reflected in the staff report. And that's mainly just so you all have that in your mind as we go through the rest of this topic. I'll then give some background information that's leading into this discussion around the town center zone code. And then we'll get into the heart of the discussion around an option to modify town center building height waivers that's reflected in our current town center zone code provisions. We'll talk about a timeline for that if council is interested in looking at that modification, and then we'll circle back to those questions for council. As we're going along, if you have questions, of course, feel free to ask at any time. So with that, we're going to start with an overview of the questions for council. So the first question, which kind of gets to the heart of it, is whether or not council is interested in exploring updates to the town center building height waiver in the town center zone code provisions. If the answer to that first question is yes, then the second question is, does council want to look at updates within this calendar year or potentially beyond this calendar year? Also, if the answer to the first question is yes, then is council interested in also having a limited duration task force to help evaluate updates to the building height waiver language? Or alternatively, going through our standard planning commission and city council process. And then the final question being, if council is interested in a limited duration task force, are there any certain categories of stakeholder groups that council wants represented on that task force? So getting into the background of this for this topic is that the Town Center Plan and Development Code amendments were adopted in May of 2019 by ordinance number 835. Wilsonville Code Chapter 4, in our larger Wilsonville Code, which as you know is our local law, Chapter 4 is commonly referred to as our Development Code. Chapter 4 is where our land use regulations live. So that is also where our town center zoning regulations also live within Chapter 4. So if I say Development Code, I use that interchangeably with Chapter 4, but Chapter 4 and Development Code are the same thing. The bulk of the substantive land use regulations governing town center are found in Wilsonville Code Section 4.132. This includes regulations around building height and allowed uses in town center. Implementation for the town center plan includes an item which is to explore urban renewal as a funding mechanism. On November 21st, 2022, the council adopted resolution number 3013, which adopted the town center infrastructure funding plan. The funding plan identified a midterm action for establishing a new town center urban renewal area. So in 2024, the City Council referred a ballot measure seeking an advisory vote from the Wilsonville electorate, seeking approval to establish a new urban renewal district in the town center. That vote failed, which then led to the 2025-2027 council goal 4 around communications and engagement. The first outcome in that goal provides calls for staff to get information and community feedback on the town center and urban renewal to help inform future council direction. And then within that outcome, strategy 4.2 states that if there are specific areas of interest concerning the town center or urban renewal for council to review, that we look at developing a strategy for review with specific policy recommendations. On December 1st, 2025, council heard a presentation from DHM Research regarding 3 focus groups it held to hear from community members about town center and urban renewal. Council also heard at that time from CFM advocates regarding outcomes from a community outreach through the city's website, Let's Talk Wilsonville. Both efforts confirmed that community members want to see a vibrant and thriving Wilsonville Town Center. Respondents were most excited about local amenities, particularly increased local businesses and parks or recreational gathering spaces in Town Center. Community members expressed concern about losing the small town feel of Wilsonville and building height. Some community members also discussed housing within Town Center, which will be discussed shortly. From the December 1, 2025 council work session, staff continued to work with CFM advocates on a communications plan, which is the next discussion item after this presentation, to continue to inform the community about the town center and potential funding sources based on feedback from the prior input from the fall. So as previously noted, some of the input received from community members in the fall expressed concerns around housing in the Wilsonville Town Center. To understand the option that is being discussed tonight regarding building height waivers, it is important to understand some of the state statutes and regulations that limit the city's ability to reduce housing opportunities in areas currently designated to allow residential units to be constructed. This includes the Wilsonville Town Center. Oregon has 19 statewide land use planning goals that underpin many state land use statutes and regulations.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Do you know where our monitors are flashing off and on? They've been doing it for a while. So the system is, we're going with the glitch. Okay, fair enough. No, I apologize. I just wanted to let you know if we're starting a cross-site, it's not
Okay,
you, it's the
fair
effect. Okay, go ahead.
The graphic, as it's flashing, is also a graphic that's in your staff report if you want
Understood,
to
understood.
look to that. So cities are required to follow the statewide land use planning goals and their related statutes and regulations when applicable. Goal 10 particularly focuses on the development of housing. Goal 10 requires cities to inventory buildable lands and ensure there is enough zoned land to accommodate needed housing over a 20-year period. So to meet this goal, the state requires that cities conduct a housing needs analysis every 6 years and accompanying housing production strategy within the year following adoption of the housing needs analysis to demonstrate compliance with Goal 10. The housing need analysis identifies the housing needed to accommodate future population growth and identifies if there is enough zoned land for different types of housing need. The housing production strategy identifies housing production strategies that will support the development of needed housing types, which must include examining the need for different types of housing. That includes single-family, middle housing, and multifamily housing. Once the city adopts a housing production strategy, the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development reviews it to determine whether to approve the strategy or remand it back to the city for revision. So to be clear, when the city adopts a housing production strategy, it still has to go through a review process with the state, and the state has ultimate authority to approve or remand it back to the city for further action. So the city's 2025-2045 housing needs and capacity analysis was adopted via ordinance number 898 on June 16th, 2025. It identified the need for 2,815 new dwelling units between the 20-year span, with approximately 35% of new housing during that period to be multifamily dwellings, which is defined as 5 or more units. That percentage results in the need for 985 future dwelling units to be multifamily out of the 2,815 housing units needed. And that is and about half of that is allocated into our Wilsonville Town Center. So we are projecting about half of that need to be built within the Wilsonville Town Center. Concurrent with the adoption of the housing needs and capacity analysis, the city also adopted its housing production strategy on June 2nd, 2025 via resolution number 3203. And building off the housing needs and capacity analysis, the production strategy lists action items for mixed-use residential development in Town Center to achieve the needed multifamily housing. So the state also requires that the city provide periodic updates to demonstrate its progress under that housing production strategy. Our housing production strategy was approved by the state with conditions in October of 2025, and just recently 2 of those conditions have the city has responded to 2 of those conditions, and the state has stated that we've met the requirements of those 2 conditions. So there's still a couple outstanding. If the city attempted to reduce or remove housing opportunities within the Wilsonville Town Center, it would be out of compliance with its state-approved housing production strategy. DLCD has the authority to take several actions against the city for non-compliance, including requiring specific actions to be taken by the city, withholding DLCD grant funding, and withholding state share revenues to the city. The state can also institute an action against the city for legal or equitable remedies in state court. Metro can also take action against the city by withholding grant funding opportunities for changes where we reduce housing opportunities in the town center. The city can attempt to update its housing production strategy to allocate the needed housing elsewhere, but like I mentioned, success in that effort is not likely. Getting this to get the state's approval, because we have to go back to the state to get approval of our housing production strategy. The state would likely remand the city's housing production strategy back to the city for revision and could potentially take further enforcement action if the city refuses to update its housing production strategy. And in particular, the state's focus right now with not only is around increasing needed housing, but in particular looking at housing in areas like town center that are closer into other services like mass transit and government services. So with that background, I want to now turn to the option for council to consider to address some of the concerns heard by community members regarding building height and concerns around the feel of the future town center development. Like I mentioned, most of the land use regulations for town center are found in Wilsonville Code Section 4.132. The town center zone has general regulations for the town center area, and then there are 4 specific sub-districts within the town center that have their own unique regulations. So each of those sub-districts are CMU for commercial mixed use. It's the area that is closest to I-5. Then there's MU, which stands for mixed use. It covers the majority of town, well, it has the largest portion of land covering town center. MSD is for the Main Street district that runs through kind of the heart of town center. And then neighborhood mixed use, or NMU, is the area furthest to the east, closest to our residential area. And so as you can, what you can imagine is that from CMU all the way down to NMU, the idea is to have lower scale development as you get closer to the residential area. Table 2 in the town center zone regulations provides development standards for each of the 4 town center sub-districts, so those 4 I just mentioned. Table 2 establishes building height minimum and maximums based on the number of stories of the building. So NMU, the one that's closest to the residential area currently in Wilsonville, allows only 2 to 3 story building heights. Main Street District and mixed use allow 2 to 4 story building heights. And then CMU, closest to the freeway, allows 2 to 5 story building heights. During the Planning Commission discussions on the Town Center Development Code, commissioners discussed a desire to allow the option for 1-story buildings that can serve as anchor tenants for other development within town center. That discussion led to the development of a waiver process to seek adjustments to building height minimums and maximums in 2 of the sub-districts, commercial mixed use and mixed use. So this waiver discussion that I'm talking about only applies currently to mixed use and commercial mixed use. So then we get into the option to consider modifications to the waiver language. So currently, the way the waiver language is written right now, it states that building heights may be adjusted through a waiver process in either commercial mixed use or mixed use. However, there's no maximum set, technically speaking, on that language. So what we are potentially offering as an option for council is to look at that waiver language if there's concerns about how tall buildings could be in town center, is looking at of refining that language to add some limitations around the waivers that are allowed. So with that, council could consider, if council's interested in looking at the waiver language and potentially putting some limitations on building heights allowed in town center, or that could be allowed under a waiver process in town center, What we would propose that council do is consider a resolution that does a few things. First, that it would outline that council is interested in looking at considering a modification, the proposed timeline for that process, and what any input process might look like if council has particular direction on that. So for example, if council's interested in a limited duration task force. In your staff report, there is a potential timeline if council wants to look at modifications this calendar year. I'll be very blunt, this is a very aggressive timeframe to ensure that we can stick to currently scheduled council meetings and planning commission meetings. Anything that is changed in our development code is required to go through planning commission and is also required to provide the state, metro, and any affected property owners with statutory notice. So there's a lot of timelines that we have to account for in such a process. So this process that's outlined here ensures that we can meet all the mandatory noticing requirements, that we can fit it within currently scheduled planning commission and city council meetings, and have it potentially adopted or considered for adoption this calendar year. And again, the only way that this timeline is at all feasible is if the only thing we're looking at is modifications to the waiver language. So if there's desire by council to look at anything outside of the waiver language, this timeline would not be feasible. So again, that kind of goes back to what's council's desire as far as looking at the waiver language. So with that, I'm turning back to the 4 questions that are before council. Again, the first being, is council interested in exploring updates to the town center building height waiver language? If there's a yes to that, does council want to do that within this year? And if yes, that council wants to explore the building height waiver language, is council interested in a limited duration task force or any other feedback around what the process would look like? And then finally, if council does want a limited duration task force, are there certain categories of stakeholder groups that council wants represented? So with that, I'll turn it back over to the council for discussion on these questions, or for Gina and I to answer any questions that you might have of us.
Councilor Skoll.
So just a point of clarification, the waiver process, would it be applied equally across all sub-districts?
That's a question that would be answered if council wants to look at the waiver language. So right now, it only applies to commercial mixed use and mixed use development or sub-districts. If council's interested or, through the input process or the review process of the language and look at expanding that to the other sub-districts, that is something that is within the realm of this discussion.
Okay, so just so I understand then, I think early in your presentation there, the height requirements are higher west going east.
Correct.
And they kind of angle down, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Councilor Shevlin?
Thank you. So I have a question about the height of the building in relation to the total number of dwelling units that will need to fit into the town center. It's not quite clear in the report what that number is for 20 years, for 2025 to 2045. We know we have a total of 2,815 dwelling units. That's for the entire city. So we can count certainly what's going on in Frog Pond and eventually Frog Pond East and South, et cetera. It is clear that we have to have 485 multifamily units within town center.
It's what we project.
What we project, okay.
Yes.
So
At a
bottom line,
minimum.
bottom line question is, if we reduce the size of the buildings, or some of the buildings, then do we have the land capacity to be able, I assume we have to build more buildings in order to get whatever our projection of dwelling units is. Do we have that within the town center?
Yeah, so one of the things that we specifically looked at when we were looking at the waiver language was around the assumptions that were made as part of the housing needs and capacity analysis and the housing production strategy. And in consultation with planning, given the scope of what we're talking about with the building height waiver language, we don't think that that would impact the assumptions that were made for the housing production strategy. In other words, that there wouldn't be a need to push that development elsewhere.
Okay.
It could become a consideration if council is interested in expanding the scope of looking at the town center development code. That is definitely something that could come into play.
Councilor Cunningham.
To piggyback on your response there, you said that reducing it wouldn't have an impact on the housing needs and capacity analysis. Would a reduction or a change in this code, would it have an impact on the financial feasibility study that cites 4,179 residential units in town center to be the underpinning funding for the infrastructure?
That's a very good question. And so staff is going to be bringing back some analysis on the assumptions at your next work session, is the plan. We're hoping that'll be at the next work session. And so this discussion, particularly around waivers, is something that may inform that feasibility analysis.
Okay.
So it's unknown now. One of the things we're looking for is some direction from council about where you might want to lead, where you might want to go with the waiver language to help inform that analysis.
Right. Just kind of for the benefit of the community, because we each were able to have a private meeting with both of you about this matter. Just to be clear about what we're talking about tonight, what is the current maximum height for these the CMU zoning, given the current waivers?
So the outright allowed use is 5 stories, but the waiver language does not state a limit,
So it's an unlimited height.
potentially through a waiver process.
Okay. You said we're not allowed to reduce our housing opportunities in town center. So I just want to be clear about what that, kind of dial in on what that means. So what is that current housing opportunity number at right now that we're not allowed to back off of?
So right now, if I remember the housing production strategy, I believe it identifies 485 multifamily housing units in town center. It does also identify other types of housing, I believe around middle housing. That's less that's being allocated to town center comparatively. So for the purposes of this discussion, it's not included. Because about 50% of our multifamily housing is being allocated to town center.
Okay. So, one of the things, I guess for the community to understand that through our discussions and our meetings and stuff that we've had is that, the process of reopening the plan to look at those housing numbers, that's a sticky situation if we wanted to try to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're looking at tonight with these waivers to our code, for my 2 cents on it, yes, I'd be interested in exploring these updates. I think that having an unlimited ability to have floors added in these zones is dicey. The very first building that's been permitted in town center under this code, the building at the Sherry site, is actually in a 3 to 4 story zone, and is already the first building is already getting the waiver and going to a 5-story level in a 4-story zone. So obviously the cat's out of the bag on that one. We're not reeling that one back in likely, but I think that's pretty emblematic of what we would likely see with a lot of these developments, especially given the vertical housing zoning that we have in the town center, which would offer an 80% tax abatement for every floor above the first mixed-use ground floor level. So developers would be kind of stupid to not go to 5 stories on any building where they possibly can and take 10 years of an 80% tax abatement. So yes, I'd be very interested in exploring these updates and ensuring that we have control over these heights and over the character of our city. Piggybacking on the Planning Commission input, I think it's also important to make sure that we're allowing for those 1-story buildings. If we're looking at the proven anchor tenant model that many businesses would be likely to pursue.
Thank you. Counselor Shevlin? Oh, sorry, City Council President Berry.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the purpose of looking at the building waivers is in response to the studies that we recently had where the public has concerned about the small town feel for the city of Wilsonville, right?
Correct.
And we can't address the number of housing because that jeopardizes us for potential funding from the state or from Metro. But we can adjust what the building height looks like if we study it, and that's something the city wants to go forward with. So I'm in favor of putting together a task force. I'd like to see, invite the people that have been on the town center task force. I think that would be a good starting point because that was well-rounded. I'd also like to have the study done as fast as possible on the timeline that you propose, because I'd love to see some momentum, in taking care of the blight in the town center area.
Okay, thank you. And I do want to correct something that I said because I want to make sure we over-deliver and under-promise, over-deliver instead of over-promise and under-deliver. I believe we have talked about the urban renewal feasibility study options coming back in March. I can't recall which date specifically, so don't hold us to the March 2nd date. It might be later in March.
We're waiting for some further analysis to come back from from our consultant team so that we can bring that back to you.
To Councilor Cunningham's point, the 4,000 north number that was a big issue back in May of 2024 has nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight, and that may have some flexibility potentially on that discussion later in the urban renewal presentation. Is that my understanding?
That, when we come back to you with the urban renewal presentation, they'll have conversations about what those numbers might be and some options for the council to consider.
Okay, because clearly that number was important to the community and the height of the buildings. So for my response, I'm all about pursuing this. I think that I concur in part with what Council President Berry said about who should make up that task force, but I also think we need to have fresh faces. So a diverse group of interested people. I think it'd be best, because as I understand it, task force are generally appointed by the city manager. Is that my understanding?
Can be.
Okay.
It's generally run by the staff project team, yes.
Okay, so I would like to make sure it's depoliticized and taken out of council. That's my 2 cents. I think that we should have a broad representation, a diverse representation, including past members on the town center plan, but others that might have not been here at that time or want to. When I was campaigning before office, and I'm sure Councilor Cunningham also when he was, there were people that weren't engaged in the concern about town center, and they're re-engaged. So I think it'd be helpful to have their opportunities to be a part of that. So a mix. And then as far as when the timeline you propose, excuse me, I'm going to lose my voice, is acceptable to me. I think if necessary, if we run into problems, we can request special city council meetings if we run into thing. But I think it's important. The community has spoken. They want closure on this. So, and how that closure looks is yet to be seen. But I think this component addresses the height issue as best we can under the law. So, but that's my 2 cents. Councilor Shevlin?
Thank you. I support everything everyone said. I'm yes on 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I like the mix of fresh faces and those that have had some experience in the original plan. Primarily, I wanted to say that it's important for us to, we listen, we're hearing the concerns about the height, and so I believe strongly that we need to explore that, without a doubt. We need to, and if we can stick within our committed number of dwelling units, which is yet to be published, then I'm all in support of it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Counselor Cunningham.
Oh, I hadn't turned my light on, but I was going to, so I'll take it.
Oh, sorry, but I'm getting my numbers mixed up.
This is a question that might be addressed in the next section, or it might be addressed next month. I had asked in our meeting about a cap, anything that we can do to provide assurances to our community that the expectation of what occurs in town center is not exceeded in a way that some people might not be pleased with.
Yeah, so the question that really raises is not so much around, what I would say is not so much around the state land use regulations. It more centers on property rights and whether or not we would be potentially violating property owners' Fifth Amendment right against government taking their property. And the hard part about that is when you're talking about regulatory issues and limitation on use, it falls under a regulatory takings analysis. It's very fact specific, so you can't kind of say cut and dry like yes or no, it would constitute a regulatory taking. There's generally a 3-factor test that we look at, which includes looking at the individual property owners' business interests in their property, how they're planning to develop it, what the government action entails, and the economic impact of that decision. So it's hard to know from the outset whether or not, like if we put just a limit across town center of this is how much residential development can occur, it's hard to know whether or not an individual property owner could ultimately claim that the city is engaging in a regulatory taking at this point. So that would probably require some additional analysis and for council's consideration, kind of a risk assessment of whether to move forward with something like that.
Okay. I know from, looking through some various reports and looking at zonings across the city that generally the zoning, it lists, let's say 8 to 10 residential units per acre or something like that.
Yeah, the challenge here is except for a neighborhood mixed use where it does have a maximum, everywhere else in town center, it doesn't state a maximum for residential development. And so that's where it gets into the question of, are you potentially engaging in a regulatory taking if you set a limit, either for individual properties or across the town center generally? So it would require additional analysis based on which kind of scenario you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's just something important I think we need to be thinking about as we approach this, because at the end of the day, the citizens get the chance to weigh in on, historically, have had the chance to weigh in on whether or not we utilize urban renewal funds to fund the infrastructure for a project. And really, for me, at the end of the day, this is something that the community has to have that buy-off on. And assurances like that, I think, will be a plus for the community to look at it and say yes to it if they know that there's some guardrails there that won't blow up in their face.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say generally speaking, like when we talk about the waiver discussion that we're having here, because waivers aren't automatically guaranteed that you get it, that's much more speculative you're talking about than what's outright allowed already in our code in those areas. So that kind of goes into also why the focus on the waiver language here too is you kind of get out of a lot of the takings issues that we might face looking at what's already currently outright allowed.
Thank you. Counselor Skull.
I too are for 1 through 4, just the rest of the council. Just one question regarding the waiver process. There's a code process, there's codes in place that are directly related to town center and how that's developed. Within the waiver process, is there another set of rules that control that process, or is that up to us again to
That's
science
Very
that
good
out?
question. So one of the things that we will be doing when we look at this is the general waiver language, which is found in a different part of our development code, along with this, to make sure that we're calling out any changes here. You can't bypass it by going to the general waiver language, that this is what we'll be controlling,
Okay.
notwithstanding the general waiver provisions.
All right, thanks.
I know it's not part of the discussion tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you why, so I don't ambush staff. I like this timeline, the fact that it's being done this year, because my goal personally as a member of this council is to push for a urban renewal vote again in November, with the understanding that what we see going down the road is acceptable for council and to move forward in a November vote. So that's my personal desire as to why, but of trying to do two timelines. So I'm hoping that the later presentation on the urban renewal discussion will be such that we can kind of do that dance to have that as an option if we elect to go as a council to move for a vote in November for another advisory vote. With that, I think you guys have answers to
I have
your
the
que-
direction, yes. So the plan is that we will bring, based on what I've heard tonight, that we will bring a resolution for council's consideration at your next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, the work session is adjourned.
we-
Just one-
What? Oh,
This
the
is the first half
communication
of this.
piece.
Item.
Like the most critical part, and I'm cutting it off. Boy, can't wait.
So
the
part
Wilson-
two.
Yeah, part two, okay.
I'm going to actually move over to this other seat, and I'm going to invite up our two individuals from CFM. I'll give a little bit of intro and then let them get ready with their PowerPoint.
Fair enough. The mayor, see the headlines tomorrow, the mayor kills the communication strategy by moving on.
I need to talk about.
My apologies, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, I'm Gina Troja. I'm the Assistant City Manager and Interim Community Development Director. As I mentioned earlier, this is part two of the Town Center conversation tonight. I think Amanda gave you a pretty good lead-in to what this conversation is. As all of you know, the city brought on CFM advocates to work on the communications piece of Town Center. As I want to remind you all, this is part of your council goal. This was one of the goals, and the goal, I'm just going to state it probably more for the public than anything, was to hire a consultant to develop and conduct education and outreach campaign on town center plan, urban renewal, and other infrastructure funding sources. So we brought on CFM advocates. They have done a lot of work in this area thus far, had some focus groups. We also did a survey on Let's Talk Wilsonville to gather input from the community, which has led us to tonight, which is the strategic communications plan. They're going to go over the plan with you this evening. What we are looking for you is some guidance to let us know if we are on the right track. And if so, then we will bring back to you at your next council meeting a more detailed and robust communication plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our folks next to me here. This is Paige Strickler and Gary Conkling. I think you all have met them already, but I'm going to have them walk through their presentation, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Again, Paige Strickler with CFM. We are here to talk kind of at a high level of the strategic communications plan that we will be developing. This plan is meant to provide the community education related to the Wilson Town Center Plan, as well as how urban renewal financing works, and to improve clarity, transparency, and public understanding of both the plan and urban renewal financing. As mentioned before, we are basing the plan off of the insights that we got from the focus groups and the community survey that was done last year. And from that, and from past outreach efforts as well, the community members really expressed enthusiasm for a vibrant town center, and they see it serving as the heart of Wilsonville. And their enthusiasm and their questions in some of the areas that needed clarity is providing the roadmap for the communications plan that we write. And then we also have to keep in mind that this plan will account for a spirited gubernatorial race. There'll be lots of messaging and talking out there during that time, if you decide to go forward in November. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gary for a few slides.
So based on what we heard from citizens, both in terms of aspirations as well as concerns, we developed a draft core message. Take this just as a draft. And in PR terms, sometimes these are called elevator speeches, but that's back in the era when we had more elevators, I guess. In any case, I'll just read this for you quickly. The Wilsonville Town Center will become the heart of our community with local restaurants, entertainment venues, unique retail outlets, walkable open spaces, and ample parking. Its infrastructure may be funded by the Urban Renewal District. The Town Center plan, adopted in 2019, has built-in flexibility to address changing retail realities and evolving housing needs. When fully built out, it will be a unique destination for both residents and visitors, and the Town Center will create more opportunities for Wilsonville residents to work, dine, and shop where they live. That is a sense of an encapsulation of sort of what we heard and what people wish for. The objectives of the plan itself are to provide reliable, centralized source of information that enables the community to understand what the town center proposes and what it doesn't, how urban renewal functions in Oregon, as well as the property tax system, which I can attest most people don't seem to understand, what infrastructure investments would be supported, and what constraints exist. And we divided much along the lines that I mentioned in terms of aspirations and concerns, areas that could be addressed, such as amenities, parks, plazas, walkability, economic activity that is local, centered, and then areas of clarification. People ask a lot about traffic congestion, parking, access, costs, long-term financial impacts, housing, flexibility, neighborhood character, market feasibility, and just a general understanding of what this place would look like after it was developed. And I think this is my final slide. Strategic framing. Framing is a notion that is used in the PR world to try to keep a focus on what you're trying to do. And we felt like actually the voters themselves, or I should say the citizens themselves, identified it as the town center will be the heart of Wilsonville. This, I think, seems to express their actual language as well as what they would like to see.
So our communications approach is using multiple reinforcing communication tools in order to reach the community, and we're suggesting to layer it to engage citizens at their own pace. This includes a refresh of the Town Center Information Hub on your website, multimedia content, plain language explainers, infographics, and FAQs, informational town halls and community forums for key target audiences, and then all materials will be translated in Spanish. And then we suggest a phased implementation of starting with reset, trust, and clarity, establishing a clear information foundation, then education, explaining the plan, urban renewal, and then other key topics, and high-touch community presence, in-person engagement during peak community activities such as farmers market, summer events in the park. So with that, we'd like to ask you if there are any parts of this clarification or any parts of the presentation you would like clarified, and then are we missing something? Is there something that we haven't captured in this presentation that you would like included?
Counselor Skoll.
Good information. I think is thorough in terms of communicating, especially on different levels. My key question is that understanding this is a generational plan, would there be a specific plan to communicate with the younger generations? This is for them, and essentially in certain terms, and so how do we connect to them? I think what you have laid out here is good for the general public, but I think there's a section of the population out there that we really need to focus on.
Yes, we would have different either in-person engagement or some sort of social media engagement that could reach different audiences. So yes, we could incorporate that.
Counselor Shedlin.
Thank you. This may be a question more for staff, but perhaps you can make a recommendation as to how many people would you expect the task force to seat? How many people would be on it? 20, 10?
Are you talking about the task force for so this plan does not,
doesn't have a
this
task
plan does
force.
not,
Okay,
yes.
sorry,
If you're
I'm
talking about the
blending
task force that we just discussed,
Yeah.
that's different than this plan. So
okay, sorry.
it's hard to remember everything because
I'm-
we've
I'm
got
blending
various
my
tracks. but-
topics, so I withdraw that question.
9 to 11.
Thank you.
City Council President Berry.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. I'm looking forward to a really good, clear, concise communication plan that's going to be addressing concerns from all different sectors of our community. I know, like what Councilor Scholl was saying, is that we do have a younger population, but we also have a senior population that their concern is like, I'm not going to see town center built out, so why should I support that? So I really think that needs to be addressed. And other concerns that I've heard is, oh, why don't developers pay for their own infrastructure? And then you touched on the property tax, that it's not going to impact local property owners' taxes, but just making sure that those are all really clear and pointed out, and different populations hear different things. But I'm really excited about the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be sure to include that.
Could you, for my benefit and for the audience, how you would handle social media outreach in this communication strategy? Is there, because a lot of people in our community still rely on social media, so how would that work?
My understanding is your staff, the city has a social media
So it would
presence.
be through the city
Yes,
staff?
correct.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay.
it would be through our channels, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Cunningham.
Thank you. Looking at the phased implementation section, reset, trust, and clarity, you heard some of the questions I was asking during the last presentation. Some of those things are going to need to be clarified and fully explained to our community. I think the information that was shared tonight about the building height waivers is news to probably 99% of our community. I think that creates a trust issue right there where people are going, wait a second, I signed on to this plan with an expectation, and it seems like there's some underlying codes and things that got through that maybe don't represent what the bill of goods that people thought that they were being sold. And so I think it's going to be very important to come back around on those. Our last mayor was very clear that it's only 1,600 units, and I have a feeling that next month we're going to hear that it's a little bit more than 1,600. The education part is good. I know that was a part that was done in part during the last May vote push to lay it out and to try to give some understanding of urban renewal. It's not an easy funding mechanism to understand, but it's also not the hardest thing in the world. So I think that with some understanding of that, people can understand to some degree some of the benefits and some of, and I hope that, because what I've heard a lot in the past is it's almost explained away as this amazing magical funding mechanism. And there are some drawbacks. There are some things like if you're building out a town center over 30, 40 years, and you're putting in 1,600 residential units or more, well, those residential units are now drawing services from the taxing districts, from police, from fire, using the library, using the parks, things like that. And the increase in property taxes that are coming with that development are not going to those things. So they're pulling services, but because of that development, that money is going to pay for the development itself and not for those services are then being strained by this development during the life of that district. Now, at the end, of course, you come away with larger property tax base than you started with. That's great. Just takes you 30 or 40 years to get there. And so just making sure that we're being very upfront and candid about these things. The last thing I'll mention is the third part of the phased implementation, those high-touch community presence things. As I've looked back on the town center plan and how we got here, it was award-winning outreach. The outreach that was done won awards, and there was an incredible number of touch points. But I think that the conclusions that were drawn from it were the incorrect conclusions, and I think that's what we heard in those focus groups and in those surveys, that the plan didn't end up matching the community's actual desires and goals. So, there's going to have to be some balancing of that as we as a council work on the policy of these things and how we can make sure that what we're doing matches the community expectations, and that the community can buy into it and understands, some of the things that we talked about, where we will have a hard time if we want to try to draw back housing, but we can find some things to help on the character, the building height, and those things. But that, we're drawing the proper conclusions from what we heard, because to me it was pretty loud and clear in those survey results that people don't want to see, 5-story buildings in a 4-story zone or 7-story buildings in a 5-story zone. They want to maintain the character of this community. So thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to see what comes.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the communication strategy. I think it's important. I think that there was more diverse input from the community about town center. I know that there's one thing we all can agree on as a community. I think there needs to be closure. I think we need to have a key education through communication strategy, but the issue of town center and how we go from here in town center, something that was devised before all of us were on council, is something that we need closure. We need to have a final decision what we're going to do. So I think that I concur with everything. I do think that there are people that still believe in that town center plan as written. I think it is, by and large, a very desired thing for a vast majority of our community. I think there was a disservice when there was some mixed messaging on the housing numbers when it came to the urban renewal district, the timing of when that vote occurs, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is how we communicate now, how we move forward now, and how we bring closure, a final decision on what we do with town center. So, and I think I appreciate your efforts. I know it was hard, and thank you for that, and I support the strategy. It satisfies the communication goals of the council. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to try it again. The work session is adjourned at 6:08 p.m. The city council will meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute Section 192-660, subsection 2, paragraph H, legal counsel litigation, so the council can consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of the city with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Members of the public outside of representatives, the news media, please exit council chambers. There's a 5-minute break.
Counselor Shevlin? Here. Council President Barry?
Here.
Counselor Cunningham?
Here?
Counselor Skoll?
Here.
Mayor O'Neill?
Here. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council President Barry, can I have a motion to approve the following order of agenda?
I move to approve the following order of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a nice President's Day on Monday. This week also marked Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent for many in our community, a 40-day season of reflection leading up to Easter that my family observes. Although the Willamette Valley and Wilsonville didn't end up seeing snow, it is still winter, and I want to remind everyone to drive carefully and be prepared for changing conditions. Since our last council meeting, I learned that Juro Sato, a longtime leader of international exchange and a central figure in the Wilsonville-Kitakata sister city relationship, passed away at the age of 86 in Kitakata, Japan. Mr. Sato was a driving force behind the student exchanges between our two cities and touched many lives through his kindness, warmth, and commitment to service and inclusion. Generations of young people in both communities benefited from his dedication to this special program. Many have gone on to do great things in their lives. Some have returned and have actually been host families. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor Juro Sato. Thank you. I have some items to cover on my business report. Over the past several weeks, I've traveled to Salem 5 times and testified a total of 7 times on legislation affecting Wilsonville. My first priority was protecting the $1 million secured last year for the Boone Bridge. I want to thank the 27 Wilsonville residents, including 3 of my council colleagues, who submitted testimony in support of maintaining that funding. I also testified in support of an economic development bill that will add an important tool to Wilsonville's economic development toolbox, especially in the Basalt Creek and Coffee Creek planned development areas. I also testified with respect to legislation creating a state commission on artificial intelligence, which, if passed, will be named in the honor of the late Senator Aaron Woods, member of our community and who is well involved and well knowledgeable on AI and the future of AI before it even was something we all try to use now. On February 6th, Senator Merkley held a town hall at Clackamas High School on that date. Prior to the event, the senator convened a meeting with local elected officials, which I attended as mayor. During that discussion, I joined other mayors who raised common issues, including in infrastructure investment from the federal level. I also raised again to him Wilsonville's upcoming earmark request for the next phase of the Boone Bridge project. On February 7th, I was proud to join more than 200 community members at our 2nd annual Lunar New Year celebration. And Council President Barry, Councilor Skoll, and Representative Sue Recky-Smith also attended. Lunar New Year is one of the most cherished celebrations across many Asian cultures, and is also personally meaningful to many neighbors, including my family. The first year, the event filled the library conference rooms to capacity. This year, we moved the community to the community center, thinking that would give us enough room, and attendance exceeded even that larger venue. A wonderful sign how this tradition is growing in Wilsonville. Many thanks to the city's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for organizing the event, and to the Oregon Chinese Coalition for their music and performances, welcoming us into the Year of the Horse, symbolizing strength, resilience, and determination, fitting themes for the year we're going to be working with ahead. I also want to recognize Zoe Mombert. There she is. She's hiding in the back. The assistant to the city manager and staff liaison to the DEI committee, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help make the event a success. I really thank you, Zoe. You are and always will be the rock star. I appreciate that. Next, I participated in the Washington County Coordinating Committee on February 9th. I moved a motion, presented a motion to the group to approve $1.45 million from Washington County's transportation funds to be used as a local match for a federal build grant application to construct the Basalt Creek Parkway extension. The project would continue Basalt Creek Parkway past Graham's Ferry Road to Boone's Ferry Road as a 5-lane facility with sidewalks and bike lanes. It is part of a joint concept plan with Tualatin for the Basalt Creek area, and design is fully completed. And it passed. It was an easy recommendation. Upcoming, I will be attending a tour of the PGE's Integrated Operations Center on February 26th. The IOC serves as PGE's main hub to manage their electrical grid system, including power load balancing, identifying issues with power distribution like a blown transformer, tracking weather and other hazards to prepare for and respond to widespread outages and other important functions. I think it's helpful that council be educated in that. And then a reminder on our DEI cultural calendar, Ramadan begins on February 17th. It is observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, communal prayer, reflection, and community as a whole. The Wilsonville Muslim Community Center is holding their annual Ramadan potluck gathering this Saturday. I look forward to attending again this year to celebrate with our Islamic community members. The city will be partnering again with the Wilsonville Muslim Community Center to collect hygiene items to donate to the Heart of the City and Wilsonville Community Sharing during the month of March. It was a big success last year, and I anticipate it'll be a great success this year. This aligns with acts of service encouraged during Ramadan. Details are available on the city's website. Lastly, February is Black History Month. Every Friday in February, come to the library to see a film that highlights a Black leader or historical event. This Friday's film is Loving, and next Friday will be Fences. Then the most important part, the Hearts of Wilsonville silent auction. If you haven't bid yet for the Hearts, they're up. The bidding is through March 6th, I believe. And I encourage you, if you enjoyed the Hearts, try to bid and bring one home to your front yard or backyard. But make sure you get HOA approval. So, to the extent you belong to an HOA. But they're up, and it's great source of funds that will go to future art projects. Now, turning to boards and commission appointments. I am appointing Vivian Resendez to the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission for a term beginning February 2nd, 2026 to June 30th, 2028. Council President Berry, can I have a motion?
I move to ratify the appointment of Vivian Resendez to the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission for a term beginning, mine says February 19th, 2026 to June 30th, 2028.
That is correct. So if I misstate, it's June 2nd, 2026?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
June
to
30th.
June 30th, 2028. Is there a second?
Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear for the record. February 19th, 2026 to June 30th, 2028.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what I thought I said the first time, but did I, or did I
There
make
was
something
some
up?
discussion about June 2nd. I just want to make sure
Oh,
we're clear.
okay, sorry. I got it right the first time. I should have just kept my mouth closed. February 2nd, 2026 to June 30th, 2028. All right? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Counselor Skoll has seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Abstain.
Okay, the motion passes 4 with, to no, with 1 abstention. Okay. I appoint Justin Tim to the Tourism Promotion Committee for a term beginning February 2nd, 2026 to June 30th, 2028. Council President Barry, can I have a motion?
I move to ratify the appointment of Justin Tim, it says Redezen on my, to the Tourism Promotion Committee for a term beginning February 19th, 2026 to June 30th, 2028.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, motion passes 4 and 1 abstention. Next, the city manager appointment. With the retirement of longtime city manager Brian Cosgrove, upcoming, City Council underwent the process of recruiting a new executive leader for our city. We enlisted the assistance of an external recruiting firm, launched a national search, and conducted an extensive application review and interview process to ensure we got the best possible applicants and the best final candidate. I want to thank Senior Consultant Richard Myers and Project Manager Brenda Gabidis with GMB Consultants, and a special thank you to Andrea Villagrana, the city's Human Resources Manager, for their expertise, guidance, and assistance in conducting this complex recruitment. Especially want to thank our advisory panel, which comprised of Lee Crosby of the Wilsonville Community Sharing, she's the Executive Director, Brian Ernst, an Assistant Fire Marshal with TV FNR, Dr. Laura LaJoy, a local business owner and a longtime resident, and an active member of the Rotary, and Dr. Kathy Ludwig, our West Lynn Wilsonville School District Superintendent, Amanda Gilhiman, the Wilsonville City Attorney, Keith Ketko, the city's finance director, and Deborah Kerber, the city's Public Works Director. I also especially want to thank all the community members who attended the city manager candidate reception and provided their feedback to the city council. So I understand we had a very good response that was provided to council from the input gathered by the community that attend. As allowed under Oregon law, city council reviewed the applications, conducted interviews, and deliberated on selecting a candidate in the executive session. Is there a motion from council?
I move that Gina Troha be appointed as city manager subject to the final employment agreement approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I would just like to,
Are you,
oh, excuse me.
are you wanting to discuss?
Yeah,
Okay.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Council President. I was
Yeah.
just waiting for a light to go on.
I'm sorry. I would just like to also say that I was really, really impressed with the appointment process that we've gone through. The city council put in a lot of time, staff put in a lot of energy. The city panel was really, really good, that represented different sectors across the city. And then when we had the public reception, I was impressed with the number of people who turned out and the number of people that filled out comment cards. We tried to take in all that information and the public's comments to come up with a candidate that we felt was really strong and that won't only learn on the job, but will be ready to perform the job. And I really support going forward with Gina's appointment.
Any other discussion? Counselor Cunningham.
Thank you. I'm happy to support this appointment as well. Mr. Gray, Mr. Andy Gray, that some of you all met here at the reception, very good guy. We had a lot of really good comments about him, and we had a lot of really good comments about Ms. Troja. And as it turns out, I think that the wealth of knowledge and institutional knowledge that Ms. Troja has is, I don't know, could be matched by anyone. It's a tough hill to climb for the process, for coming in. So I just wholeheartedly want to support this appointment, the selection, and also just weigh in that I think the process was outstanding. I also thank Mr. Myers and Andrea for all their hard work on this. It was good to work with both of them and go through the whole process of whittling down from 54, I think it was, applications, down to where we got with 3 interviews and some really good folks. And I'm pleased to see Mrs. Troja take this on.
Thank you. Counselor Shevlin.
Thank you. I just want to comment that I really enjoyed the process. I've taken part in a number of these types of executive level interviews, recruitments and interviews during my career. What I really enjoyed about this particular process is how much in sync our council was, the 5 of us. We shared ideas, we had questions that were respected and respectful of our candidates, but also questions that we entertained during our discussion period that really showed that we were really dedicated to making the most important and best decision for our city about this appointment. But I really like the way we all worked together, and I want to thank my fellow councilors for the way we performed as a team. Thank you.
Counselor Skull.
I'd like to reiterate that. I'd like to thank everybody involved. Andrea, you did a great job, and Richard did a great job too. And they took care of both us as interviewers, but they also took very good care of the interviewees and processed the information to us in a great manner so that we could do a full analysis top to bottom, ask great questions, and basically had community members involved both during the interview process but during the reception. And there was a large amount of responses during that community session that came in with positive comments, and I think the choice is clear, and it was can't reiterate that it was a good process and a fair process, and I think the choice is the best choice.
I concur with everything that was said. I will say I really enjoyed working with council on it. I thought we all really tried our best. We all had similar thought processes on, we actually read tea leaves in one respect on some things that we thought may occur or seemed like it, and it worked out well. I appreciate that. It was tough. We understood that the community expected us to work hard, and I really think we did. So I want to thank my colleagues. I really appreciate it. So with that, is there any further discussion before we call a vote? Okay. All right. I now vote to approve Ms. Troja as our next city manager. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes 5-0. With this council vote tonight, GMP Consultants will begin negotiations with Gina Troja to prepare an employment agreement, which will come back to the council for approval. And with that, I'd like to take time to say some words. Tonight, with the help of our community, the council has taken an important step for our city. For nearly 15 years, Wilsonville has benefited from steady professional leadership under City Manager Brian Cosgrove. Because of that consistency, our residents have come to expect something important, that their city government works, that it responds, that it is thoughtful and measured, not only when times are easy, but when times are difficult. And these are challenging times for local government everywhere. So the question before us was not simply who could do this job. The real question was who is ready on day one to guide this city and this community forward. After a thorough process, the answer became clear. Gina Troja has spent almost 2 decades serving the people of Wilsonville. Much of that work has happened behind the scenes, supporting staff, supporting the city manager, and helping ensure this organization succeeds. She has overseen major departments, worked with our public safety partners, guided budgets, and stepped in when the city needed steady leadership. But experience alone is not why she was chosen, in my opinion. What mattered most was trust. Those who work with her describe a leader who listens first, stays calm under pressure, and communicates clearly with both the council and the public. I've seen that myself as I've seen that myself as mayor. During critical moments in our community, she has been someone I could rely on. And when she traveled with me to Washington, D.C., she was prepared, thoughtful, and focused on the results for our residents. Nothing more, nothing less. Those who have worked closely with Gina say the same thing. She puts the best interest of the city first. Gina understands Wilsonville, not just administratively, but personally. She lives here, raised her family here, and has invested her career in this community. For many years, she has been part of this city's leadership. Now she takes that leadership on as city manager. Gina steps into this role with deep knowledge of our city and the leadership and judgment to carry out the direction set by this council. Local government is where residents experience their government most directly when they need safe streets, reliable services, or help with a neighborhood concern. The city manager's job is to make sure those services work for the people we serve, and that is work Gina has already carried out for this community for many years. Gina, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Wilsonville, thank you for years of dedication. Thank you for your loyalty to this city and our community, and thank you for accepting this responsibility. We look forward to working with you, and we welcome you as the city manager of Wilsonville. And now you got to step up here and be in front of the room, and let's give her a round of applause. Now you have to say something.
It appears that way. Thank you to all of you for your kind words. I am honored to be the next city manager of this wonderful community. As you mentioned, I have worked here for many, many years and have raised my family here. This is a fantastic place, not only to work, but also to live. Thank you for trusting in me with this next role as your city manager. I look forward to working alongside you and accomplishing your objectives and your goals and leading such an amazing team of staff, many of them who are in this room and sitting behind me. And more importantly, I would look forward to working with this community and the citizens and community members. I loved this process. Many of you spoke about it. One of the things I liked the best about this process was the meet and greet. It was an opportunity to interact with this community understand what their concerns are and what they like and things where they want to take this community. And so that was one of my favorite parts of the process. I enjoyed meeting with all of you and talking with all of you. I look forward to this next step and all of the great things to come. Thank you again for entrusting me with all of this, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you. Okay. Last item, our next city council meeting will be on Monday, March 2nd, starting at 7 p.m. We now turn to citizen input and community announcements. We will move now to community input announcements portion of the city council meeting agenda. This is an opportunity for visitors to address the city council on any matter concerning city business or any matter over which the council has control. It is also time to address items not on the agenda. It is also time to address the items that are on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. Staff will make every effort to respond to the questions raised during community input as quickly as possible following the council meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please, when conveying your remarks, whatever they may be, please speak to the council as a whole and not directly to any one member of council during your comments. Also, please note you can use the podium or sit at the tables in front of council, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Please make sure you talk into the microphone at either location. To comment before council in person or virtually, you must sign up either by completing a speaker card at the side of the room or by using the raise hand feature in Zoom. You will need to provide your name, address, and topic you will be discussing. Information on engaging with City Council can be found on the City Council's webpage, wilsonvilleoregon.gov/City Council. As a reminder, when you begin your comments, state your name for the record and state your address, or state that your address is provided on your speaker card. Please note that this is not the only way to communicate with the council or me. You're welcome to submit information in writing or via email. Additionally, I encourage you to schedule a meeting with me or any of the other city councilors to discuss your concerns further. And with that, Stephen Fitton.
Evening. My name is Stephen Fitton, and my address and information is on file. I've lived in Wilsonville now for over 10 years, and in that time, I've seen considerable changes to the city, cost of living in particular. To me, fiscal stewardship is a baseline expectation for local government. With that comes transparency with open records and open dialogue. And with that, I am requesting that the full details of the proposed sewer rate increase be shared with the already strained tax-paying Wilsonville citizens before the March 16th hearing and before any final decisions are made. It is only fair to provide us with information to review the proposal's details, understand the rationale, and see what the proposed rate increases will mean to their own budgets before the March 16th hearing. To be clear, I am asking for this information to be made available as quickly as possible, given that there's less than a month before that hearing. The city should leverage all communication channels to announce and encourage residents to access and review the proposal. To reiterate, the purpose of my request is to foster transparency, trust, and engagement between city government and the people. We have already been hit for one rate increase, stormwater, and taking another gut punch with the potential sewer rate increase is really sitting poorly with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Greenfield.
My name is Kate Greenfield, and my address is available with other paperwork. My husband and I have lived in Wilsonville for over 16 years. We grew up in Oregon, graduating from Pacific University. Then our careers took us to places such as the Boston area, Philadelphia, and Miyazaki, Japan. As we looked for a place to retire back to Oregon, We chose Wilsonville after carefully studying several suburbs of Portland, including their city governments. We selected Wilsonville, and after 16 years are very happy with our choice. One of the major attractions has been our city government. It has openness to citizen participation in both planning and making decisions, and the willingness of the city to stand up to special interests that would damage the livability of the city as a whole is exceptional. I want to express my thanks to the councilors who cast a very tough vote in support of our general interest at the last meeting. They did not cause the problems with stormwater and sewage that have obviously grown over more than a decade, in part created by economic difficulties during and after the pandemic period. It seems possible that during that time, the struggle to manage basic necessities may have delayed appropriating large sums of money for costly repairs that could be pushed off just a little while. Paying for the problems we are finally addressing will be temporarily uncomfortable for many of us. But ignoring these problems is not in our interest. We as a community must share the burden of protecting our well-being and the value of our property. So thanks for your courage in helping us face a difficult situation.
Thank you. David Schaefer.
I'm David Schaefer. My address is 30755 Southwest Fur in Old Town, and I can honestly say the things I heard tonight remind me of what Wilsonville used to be. 18 years ago, the city council made a decision that Old Town was not a good representation of the rest of Wilsonville, and it had to be upgraded. They needed to put in sidewalks and curbs, repave the streets, put in new utilities, and a stormwater system. We said, okay. They had funds from various agencies to pay for that. Unfortunately, the city engineer and the contractor that got the bid did not do an adequate job of investigating the situation. They ran out of money, and after that, they shut it down less than 2/3 completed. But they promised, absolutely, we will be back a year, maybe 2 years with the funds to finish the job. That was 18 years ago. We haven't seen it finished yet. In addition, 5 years ago, they came and decided that the old Sherwood Equipment property needed to be developed. When I tried to develop the property, the city said absolutely no more than 6 houses. I think we ended up with 16. That resulted in having to redo some of the underground utilities involved in the area. They used the right-of-way, which was fine, right through the middle of my parking area and the neighbor's parking area. They said, oh, it's part of our responsibility to put it back in place. Well, they scraped the dirt back in after they got done. They did not compact it. They did not re-gravel it. In the process, 18 years ago, they created a channel right along the edge of Fir Avenue where water runs 2 to 3 inches deep, 3 feet wide. And now with the poor excavation and repacking, it now creates a huge lake in front of our place, a huge lake in front of the neighbor's place, and I understand the house on the corner has water in the crawl space on heavy rain days from the water that's been directed there by the city projects and the lack of proper inspection. You passed Resolution 3230, and I understand the problem. At the same time, you've created a major problem for some of us in Old Town, and it's time you stand up and take responsibility for that and fix the problem. I'm not saying you have to do curbs and sidewalks, but you have to fix the problem you created. Please move to reconsider 3230 and take appropriate action for Old Town. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Bagnell.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bill Bagnell, and my information is on the speaker card. I have been closely following the current legislative session and discussions about funding to advance the I-5 Boone Bridge replacement in Wilsonville. I'm concerned that the Ways and Means Committee was considering, or is still considering, taking back funding that Senator Courtney Neron-Mislin has helped secure. I was very happy to see Mayor O'Neill taking the time testifying in person at the Capitol on behalf of Wilsonville to defend this crucial funding to advance the project. I also noticed that Council President Berry and Councilors Shevlin and Skull submitted testimony, written testimony, in support of the Boone Bridge funding, as did so many Wilsonville residents. You can read all that testimony submitted in support of this funding at the legislature's website. It was very disappointing, though, that support from our council on this issue was not unanimous. Our residents understand that the Boone Bridge is a critical lifeline for our city, so I hope that every councilor always prioritizes advocating for replacement at every opportunity. Thank you.
Chris Heidemann.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chris Heidemann. My info is on file. I'd like to address an opinion piece published today in the Wilsonville Spokesman. The piece starts out implying that residents are disengaged from local government, but we have folks commenting on stormwater and town center and traffic and parks, and we have the responsive, knowledgeable city staff who answers our questions. And speaking of asking questions and supportive city staff, the opinion piece asks, where did the money go regarding previous stormwater assessment increase? So I asked the question of city staff, and I soon had the answer. It turns out 15 high-priority spot repair projects in Charbonneau have all been completed with those funds. All of this is laid out in Appendix C of the Charbonneau Consolidated Improvement Plan, pages 137 to 159. Seems that rather than asking questions and learning, it's easier to provide red meat for folks who want to think of even our local government as dishonest or complicit. The piece further states that a stormwater pipe with a gaping hole is unfixed over a year later, but emergency repairs were carried out with permanent correction pending funding. And if the author's vote against funding had carried the day on February 2nd, if the rate increase hadn't passed, then certainly future city councils facing more and bigger sinkholes and more and bigger rate increases would certainly complain about our deferred leadership. 8 parks in Villebois. Those are the problem? You all know you can use these, right? My family and I enjoy Millennium Park, yet we don't live adjacent to it. And Villebois has a pretty great skate park. Tons of families with young kids and teens out there having a great time, helping each other learn new skills and explore skating. Should we have not built these parks? And if we do build them, who should maintain them if not the city? Should we have gated parks with entrance fees, right? I'm not a skate park user, so why should I have to pay for that? Next, I've not heard a single person complain that there were no missteps in city leadership. If we want to hold past city council and city management accountable for things like the stormwater, go for it, and perhaps we can learn from that effort. But determining who dropped the ball years ago doesn't help us overcome the current challenge. We have the challenge in front of us today. And surprise, surprise, then they trot out Home Depot. As the author knows, or should have known, the city maintains a website with facts around Home Depot's application. Briefly, city planners met with Home Depot multiple times, offering multiple paths for them to locate in Wilsonville. Home Depot chose only to argue that they're the same as an electronics retailer. There, done, right? Our Development Review Board disagreed with that, City Council unanimously disagreed with that, and the Oregon Court of Appeals ultimately disagreed with that. Finally, there isn't a single suggestion on how to improve Wilsonville or its governance. We get apple pie terms like raising families and quality of life, important, sure, but these don't provide a path forward, a plan to change. How should our governance change? What city responsibility should we shed or should we take on? Nope, crickets on that most critical topic. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else? Is that it? Okay. Now turning to councilor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements. Council President Berry.
Thank you. So recently, I also attended the Lunar New Year's celebration here in Wilsonville, and I was really, really pleased to see the full house attendance. And not only was the place packed, but people stayed till the end, and they were having a really great time, so that was a really fun event. Also participated in the city manager interviews. We talked about that earlier tonight. And then I attended the Clackamas County C4 Metro Subcommittee meeting the other day. So those were the key things. I'm also looking forward to the upcoming PGE operations tour. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Cunningham.
Thank you. Let's see, on February 4th, I attended the Water Providers Consortium meeting. It was a interesting meeting. There was an outline of several large water projects that are being done in the region, including the Bull Run project. And there's a lot of investment in water infrastructure in our region that they kind of updated those programs. As the mayor pointed out earlier, yesterday began the season of Lent, and I would also like to wish our community a blessed Lent, and know that I'm also celebrating with you. As for the city manager thing, I'd just like to take a moment to again congratulate Ms. Troha on the appointment. I look forward to working with you, and I'm pleased that we have somebody with such a vast knowledge who is so willing to sit down and have conversations and understand where people are coming from, and really try to understand the issues when people present them to come up with some good conclusions. So I look forward to that, and I'd say welcome aboard, but welcome on, welcome to the top. One of the things that I've heard from some of the citizens for a while, a little bit more recently, as we've had some different citizen input moments, that people aren't hearing a lot back in the moment. I've explained to them that we don't really want back and forths during citizen testimony itself, but that the city staff and or counselors, depending on the questions that they have and things like that, should be getting back to them as quickly as possible with some responses to help answer those questions and provide information. So that's something that if you have a serious question that you're bringing up during counselor comments and you want that response, you're not hearing something, please do reach out. Make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks. All of our citizens that have questions should be getting those responses. So in the spirit of that, I appreciate Mr. Fenton's comments that that info should be given to the public as early as possible. I know that we're on some tight timelines. We're working really hard to get that staff report done and find all the options that council can consider for the sewer rates. And I hope to get it, I hope to see it as early as possible too. But it is important that our citizens do get a chance to see it, look through it, digest it, have chances to ask questions ahead of time if there's some questions that come up about it. So I'd like to see that earlier than the kind of the 5 days before that we get our council packet. But Mr. Schaefer, thank you for coming as well and explaining that some of the issues in Old Town that I had pointed out during the vote, which to address the other speaker, that was a reason that I did vote against that rate increase. Was I just want to reiterate that the reason I voted against that rate increase was because of the stormwater waiver. We're taking people who have, as Mr. Schaefer described, substandard stormwater system that are currently on waivers. They don't pay for the stormwater system as it is right now. And we're making them pay full price, just like everybody else that has curbs and the whole shebang. There are some secondary and tertiary kind of systems with the stormwater that do come into play there. Making sure that creek beds are working right, that water's flowing kind of around those neighborhoods. So there is some benefit there. But just to kind of reiterate and explain, the reason I voted no was because I didn't think that those people should be brought on at 100% of the rate. So that's kind of where I stood on that. As for the opinion piece, I stand by my opinion piece. There's a lot that was said in there. Not going to sit here and break down every point, but I think our city has a really good opportunity right now to take an approach that really ensures that when we talk about inclusivity and diversity, that we're including everybody. The voices are heard, they're being accounted for. I think that our process during the city manager search was a really good example of this council working together in that spirit. Everybody was heard. Everybody was asking really good questions. We all bounced ideas off of each other. We came up with all kinds of things about, we had a guided tour for the candidates on the morning of the interview. And it was just something that we all kind of spitballed and sat around. And really all the voices, again, we were all heard. It was very collaborative. And it felt like a really good moment of teamwork here. I think it's something we can find in the community too. I didn't write that opinion piece because I'm trying to hate on people or just diss everything. I think there's room for improvement. I think that we can find better approaches to the problems and the issues that we face. I think that trust is something that needs to be kind of readdressed. We discussed it during the work session. There was some things that I brought up, if you didn't see the work session, that need to be addressed, because I can tell you from talking to a lot of different folks in this community that people feel like they're not always getting the full picture. So with that, those are my comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Shevlin.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, tonight, and thank you for your testimony. I did cut my report short a bit at the last meeting because out of respect to the open hearing process and so many people that wanted to be able to speak. So I'm just going to bring up a few things that I didn't have a chance to report on last time. In early January, I met with a Wilsonville citizen for over 2 hours. He came with a legal pad with 3 pages of questions and concerns. And I have to tell you what a pleasure it was to meet with this gentleman. We went through every single one of his questions, his comments, his ideas, and I came away with a great understanding of what he had in mind and things that I'd like to promote and work on for the community. So I would love to have that opportunity with anyone that would be interested to do that. I'll buy your coffee if you'd like. But anyhow, that was a great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to more of those. The citizen also had some questions about what we were going to do for our country's 250th anniversary coming up here this year, and made some suggestions that I've passed on to our Parks and Rec department, who will be organizing that. So I look forward to any of you passing those ideas on. Also, at the end of January, I took part in a town hall with State Representative Sue Reekie-Smith, and she focused on the, at that time, upcoming legislative agenda and how she could help Wilsonville, and also about the Boone Bridge. Speaking of the Boone Bridge, and as was mentioned, I had the opportunity to submit written testimony in support of keeping it seems like such a pittance in today's figures, numbers of $1 million that Senator Neron Mislin was able to get for us, and that $1 million will only just take baby steps toward efforts on rebuilding the Boone Bridge. But it's so important that we try to maintain that. We don't know what the decision will be, but certainly our legislators are tasked with keeping their budgets too. And so they're looking at all options and all expenses that are in front of them. And we still are at risk that we could have some of that $1 million whittled down, but hopefully we've made a strong voice. Speaking of the Boone Bridge, I mentioned a couple of council meetings ago and I found out that there weren't a lot of people that were aware of this, but the Charbonneau community sewer and water delivery is suspended under the Boone Bridge. So when that bridge does go down or have an accident like happened not too long ago, or if there's some sort of structural damage to the bridge, then about 3,000 people south of the river will lose their services. So to that end, in Charbonneau, they have a safety and security manager, And I was really pleased. He and I had a conversation a week ago. He's looking at trying to find alternative water sources. There are wells on the Charbonneau campus. Right now, the water is not drinkable, and so it's used for irrigation, different things. But he'd like to work with the city to see if maybe there's a way to get the water filtered, maybe provide or develop a public-private partnership between the HOA there in Charbonneau and the city on how to make sure that there is water available. So I really like the fact that we have citizens that are looking ahead and trying to make sure that we are thinking of emergency situations. On February 5th, I attended as the primary representative in the mayor's stead, the Clackamas County Coordinating Council. Everything was focused on the legislative agenda at that time and things that might positively or negatively affect our city. And then, as we said, we all of us took part in the city manager candidate interviews it was a 2-day period of time, but it was much longer than that as well, with all the other lead up to the preparation for that process. And then just lastly, yesterday I attended the French Prairie Forum, and again, update on the legislative session that's currently underway. But a real take-home on this one was the topic about transportation funding, and we know that there's a lot up in the air about how we're going to fund for ODOT and transportation issues in our state, and things are going really slowly in regards to any kind of agreement at the legislature on transportation funding. And they've already indicated, of course, that this will be a main topic next year for the full session in 2027. So I'm not sure how much will be resolved this year, but we'll continue to watch that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Skoll.
Pretty much had a fairly busy schedule. In late January, we had the opportunity with Councilor Shevlin to participate in the French Prairie Forum, which is a first for me, and it was, again, I won't repeat what she was talking about, but it was deeply embedded in reviewing the legislative agenda for this round of the short session. In late January also, as council liaison, a part of the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission. It was a very enlightening meeting. I enjoyed that meeting, enjoyed working with that group. They're very dedicated to their activity, and I mentioned this in the working session. It was really nice to see them engage in the artistic side of the community, critique that, figure out what would be appropriate for the city and, methods to get that art out in the city. But then they also moved to the business side of the activity in terms of allocating grants for the various applicants. And they went through that in a very fair and analytical way to distribute those grants. I've attended the Willamette Intake Facility Commission meeting at the end of January. It was my first meeting, so it's another volume of 500 pages to read and kind of get tuned into what they're doing. But I do have a general understanding of how that works and what the consortium's doing. Attended the Lunar New Year event, as everybody said. It was a great event, well attended, well performed, and it was a lot of fun. And I hope to see a lot of you there for next year's event. It was a good time. I've sat in on the DEI committee and basically testified at the DEI committee in terms of trying to understand, or wanted to get an understanding of what they were doing, and thanking them for their efforts in terms of in injecting and managing the DEI activities within the community. But also, they're tied fairly closely with the Arts and Culture group. They coordinate events and everything, so I wanted to understand what the process is there, what their thinking is as compared to the other committee, and I look forward to working with them further in the future. As everybody's talked about, the city manager interviews was a day-and-a-half event. Again, I want to thank Andrea and Richard and the whole team for working that out and working through that and managing that and taking care of us throughout that whole process. And also take the time, as everybody else says, all the other counselors have said, it's a very good process of working through this with the team here. And everybody, basically spoke their mind, they shared ideas. It was a very collaborative process, and I enjoyed that. And that's, in certain terms, as a council, that's one thing that we cannot do on a regular basis. So it was enjoyable to get to know people, get to know the fellow counselors a little more, go through that process and kind of get a feel for what people were thinking. We also had various resident meetings or various community meetings, or various meetings in the community. They've been very good meetings. I've addressed anything from sewer and stormwater. That's the top of mind subject for everybody, of course. And then all the way over to the emergency preparedness. And those have been great discussions in current terms of myself learning what the community is thinking, but also engaging with the community and understanding how much people throughout the community would like to participate in that process. They want to know what to do, how to, who the contacts are. There's a whole list of questions there. So I hope to pursue that here in the coming months and get something set up to where, and we're using the Charbonneau model and trying to basically propagate that through the community. So I look forward to working on that. And as others have said, I'm open for meetings. If anybody, via phone call, coffee, or whatever, if anybody's interested in talking, I'd like to get to know you, and I would hope that you'd like to get to know me a little bit better. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is our consent agenda. Will the city attorney please read the items on consent?
Resolution number 3234, a resolution to allocate community cultural events and programs grant funds for fiscal year 2025-2026. Resolution number 3235, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville adopting the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Commission, ACHC FY 2025-26 5-year action plan and annual 1-year implementation plan. Resolution number 3238, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with KNL Industries, Inc. for the 2026 street maintenance project, capital improvement project number 4014. Resolution number 3241, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville approving a professional services agreement with CFM Strategic Communications, Inc. for contracted government relations and lobbying services, and minutes of the February 2, 2026 City Council meeting.
Thank you. City Council President Barry, can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. There's no new business, no continuing business or public hearings, so city manager business.
I enthusiastically support your choice of the next city manager. That's all I have.
And you don't get off the hook. We're going to embarrass you later before you pack up and leave. Legal business.
None tonight, Mayor.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned at 7:58 PM.